Hey, so in this month's November 2025 YouTube video and podcast episodes, it's going to be encompassing my interview with Ingrid Hu Dahl, who is really just an incredible woman. And I do have her website pulled up because I want to describe her book and a little bit about her. And she is not only such an articulate woman, but she's so present, and she just, I don't know, when I was sitting with her and talking with her, I just thought, oh my goodness, I was just trying to soak up everything about her because she just is fantastic. So I do want to introduce her book because I think after listening to this, you probably wanted to read, you would probably want to read her book. And it is tied very much into, of course, dying better. So her book is called Sun Shining Our Morning Snow. This is where I'm going to read from the website, so bear with me. It is a fearless and deeply moving memoir that celebrates the power of authenticity, love, and resilience. Ingrid, a mixed-race queer woman, takes readers on an intimate journey through the challenges of self-discovery, navigating the weight of social, cultural, and familial expectations. And it is so much more than that. So enjoy my talk with Ingrid. Whether you're on part one or part two, make sure to listen to both parts. And of course, I'm going to be linking her information in the information for both the YouTube video and podcast. Let me know if you have questions. I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye. With the healing part, it's I think it's understandable, especially just in my experience and just thinking about your mom, how natural it is for us to want to have physical healing. Right? Like we want to be able to have that physical healing, but how, even though we don't have that physical healing or that physical cure, how it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but these other aspects of ourselves really become alive and they start to take center stage. So whether it's the emotional body part of you, spiritual part, all those things. So it's always so interesting how we naturally dip into those other areas of our lives when this physical stuff is happening to us or physical healing isn't kind of coming around. And so this is why, at least when I talk with my audiences too, is to not forget that, let's acknowledge the difficulty of not physically healing because there's so much to cover there. But the opportunities for these other aspects of ourselves to come center stage and heal, we can still do that up until the very end. Did you see that with your mom? Do you think she was doing some kind of other, even though it doesn't always look like, butterflies or whatever, beautiful things?
Yeah.
Because healing, I think most of us know healing can be a roller coaster. We have to come into contact with aspects of ourselves that we maybe have ignored.
Yeah.
So talk to me more about that or whatever you want to take from there.
Man, my mom, in her entire tenure in cancer, she got a third master's degree. She was very much chose to not disassociate, but like disregard cancer. She didn't tell people. She, was active. She, up until the very final kind of vignettes where she was like, had lost a lot of weight. So perhaps call it like a year and a half of, pretty downhill.
Okay.
I think she was realizing that things were getting out of control. Like she couldn't really walk around outside. She, breathing was laborious. She was starting to feel pain. Like there's a lot of pleural effusion. So she was in the hospital a lot for months on end, getting that drained out. She got a staph infection. She had other kinds of infection. Like there was just like a laundry list that I think what was happening is being physically alive and so slowly, actively dying was exhausting. It was exhausting for her physically. But I had seen her before this chapter of her nearing death and weaving throughout our time together, that there was a lot of really good healing and processing and wrapping things up, so to speak. I would say the most incredible, at the very, very end of my visit with my mother, as she was hallucinating, she would like laugh. She was like having interesting conversations. She saw her grandparents, and it was like such a beautiful, I'd sit with her and kind of ask her what she was saying or seeing. And she's like, oh, do you see blah, blah, blah? Or she had an hour with somebody who was like a neighbor or friend of hers that my father was like, oh my God, she hasn't been alive for 25 years. And like just having this floodgate of joy that we could not see, but she was experiencing. And I know that's very common. I've read a couple of books about
Well,
that, like
there's
in
also some
between.
raging and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. Some of those moments were a little scary, and I'd be like, what's scary? Like what's happening? She's like, well, that animal or that color, those colors look a little scary. I'm like, okay, well, are there other things that are less scary? She's like, I'm gonna ignore that. And then there'd be a lot of, I'm
Wow.
like, okay,
That's pretty cool.
great. I know my mom she kept to
Just
what
gonna
she
ignore that.
wanted,
That's good. Good
Yeah.
for her.
Okay, mom. It's like, nope, nope, not part of this
Good for her.
experience. Yeah. And then she had like a lot of children. I think, my mom wanted, grandkids and had put a lot of pressure on us to consider changing our minds and wanting to make children before she died, basically. And I was like,
Okay.
Mom. So we had a long conversation around that. But yeah, in her active dying phase, like there's all these kids that show up and she's talking to them and they're hanging out. And so whatever her kind of visual virtual experience that she was having that we were not having was it beautiful to watch that the especially in choosing the ones that she liked
Okay.
were of reunion and of absolute joy, uplift, and support. It felt like, she was seeing people, lots and lots of people who were awaiting her, welcoming her. And it was just such an interesting thing because like, you might be like, oh, they're thinking, listening, like, oh, that must happen, and then it's over. And it's like, no, it happened like undulating over weeks and weeks, at least for my mom. So it was fascinating that then she'd be back, and usually it was a pain. Her physical body would bring her back or bring her out of that. And then we would have to administer pain meds to help her go back to sleep. Because I think that's what's happening is like your physical body is just in such distress and everything is so laborious and it's like you can barely eat all the things. You're becoming like a bird like, you're wasting away. But there's still this force that's contained. And I almost wonder if for people who are going through that kind of version of dying with that being kind of slow, the release that they must feel to crack out of this shell of a remaining physical body must
Really
be
limiting.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what liberation. Like, oh my God. And I sense that in all the other automatic writing and even dreams where my mom, like in this second memorial we had, which was months and months later, and I write about it, it's in the last chapter of my book called The Phoenix, because it felt like I was waking up and I had never felt this before, but it felt like a phoenix was powerfully swirling around this house in joy and gratitude that like we were all gathered together and had honored her in this way and it just like took off. And when I opened my eyes, so the beauty is the book, the memoir is called Sun Shining on Morning Snow, which is my name. And at the very end, I think I will share it with learners because I think this would be really listeners because it's helpful. Is there's this gift of the physical from this sort of soul experience, and like there's a sprinkling of snow, a dusting of snow in the morning with the sun shining on it, and I like wake up looking at that after all of that we had experienced the day before, and smile and just like physically say thank you, Mom. It felt like a gift from her to say thank you and I'm free. So we have to pay attention to these things because I do think energetically there's something that shows us, and I get a mourning dove, literally has followed me around the world, like not the same one. But this morning dove shows up, whether I was doing yoga and a yoga retreat in Mallorca off, Spain, or here walking in Sausalito or in Palm Springs, a mourning dove will come and just like check me out and visit and take off. And it just, I don't really believe anymore in coincidence. It feels very intentional. And I just honor it. I'm like, thanks for visiting, Mom. I'm doing well. I see you. And then they take off.
That's really perfect.
It
Really
feels
perfect.
amazing.
And it must be able to give you some peace, I imagine.
Yeah, and also gives me a lot of new perspective on the life I have to live. And it doesn't mean trying to force myself to be more enlightened or not get cranky about something.
Right. No.
I'm like,
no, it's not that.
still
It's not
human.
that. No. And it's even with that, and I know a lot of times it's, these discussions, at least when I've been involved or something, it's, things about like every moment, making the most of every moment. And I personally, while that's great, I personally, and I've written this, I personally just say, take the pressure off of making the most of every moment. Because depending on who you are, depending on how you see things, I think it can be really hard to make the most of every moment. You might go through your savings pretty quickly. I don't know. It just depends on who it is. But when you can, you do pay tribute in your own way to your life or to the life of others, whatever it is. But I love how that mourning dove is around you, and I love how that you've been able to get a sense of just calm and peace. I imagine internally, especially with this whole thing. I wanted to ask you, because and I love listening to you speak. So I make these notes and everything, but then I just wanted to put my pen down. I just wanted to listen to you because, gosh, oh my gosh, you're just so darn eloquent. I wanted just to ask, how long was your mom on hospice? For how many weeks or days?
Home hospice was probably about 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
And then went into that hospice for about an hour or two.
Yeah, okay. And knowing kind of how things went, do you think she would have benefited starting hospice sooner? Just knowing what you've known? Or changing course of the direction in her medical treatment from trying to cure, and do these treatments that were trying to cure something that was incurable. Do you think it would have benefited her, or do you think maybe had you been able to change the course of treatment and gone more towards kind of a comfort-focused care?
Yeah, I think
a little earlier.
Comfort-focused care earlier would have been great.
Okay.
Perhaps what the wrench in all of it was that emergency surgery. Like, it kind of threw off her potential journey to begin, but it also expedited it at the same time. And it's funny, when I think about her being home hospice and how chaotic it was, like, in some ways, I actually think my mom was so happy to be home. We just didn't have, it was really, really hard to understand and navigate how to request, pay for, whatever, a hospice nurse to come. We really needed help. So I think one of the things that I wish was more identifiable, offered, at least in, this international kind of experience, was like, how, if you really do need care, how do you get it?
Yeah.
That was very difficult to understand. Once you choose home hospice, what are your options and how do you get it fast? Because it's time bound. But I could tell my mom really, really wanted to get out of the hospital when I had seen her. Like, she was over it. She was willing to sign anything, it seemed, to get out, because she'd spent all these months over and over in the hospital, and it was painful for her. She was not comfortable. She wanted to be home. So it was good that she was on home hospice, and I think it was good that she perhaps chose to die back in the hospital without having to spend much time in there. But there was something really important for her to be home, and to be home with us. I know that was really important, and it happened the way it happened, and I wouldn't change it. But I wish that for others that it was very clear what your care options were,
Right.
the fast options, and also if you wanted your loved one to be more comfortable way before, like there was a year of just suffering. Like, could we have, could there have been anything that was like a different path to just straight up trying to fix, remove, slow down cancer and just have her be healthy? And perhaps that asphyxiation, even if it was coming, it would have been kind of a quieter death because she would have already been on what she needed to allow the cancer to do what it was trying to do, which was to kill her. But yeah, instead, we experienced like another several weeks of this suffering, but also her journeying and processing and having these moments of joy. So it is the experience we had, but I hope that others have more options when they need them.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe the hour's almost up. I could talk to you forever.
Same. It's lovely speaking with you, Abigail.
It is so lovely just watching you and hearing you. I wanted to ask you, because I'm an audiobook person, is your audiobook out yet? Or was it coming
It
out?
is, and I
out.
narrated it. Yeah.
Great. No,
it's
that
on
was my
Audible.
other, because definitely you have to narrate. That's wonderful, because yes, I'm an audiobook person, so that'll be great.
Oh, please listen.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're narrating it. And since we're down to closing, is there anything else that you want to message to our listeners, or just anything, last little tidbit that you want to include?
That you're never alone. Even though this can feel so lonely, you're never alone. There's so many people who've been in your shoes, though different, and could really value hearing your story, being part of your anticipatory grief, holding space. It's really important to share and not to have it be so quiet. I think journaling or writing it down in a story or talking about it, any of those ways to get it out and process is super important. And also the allowing for a space of reflection to identify the choices you're making in your life. You know, if this is one life to live, one life you'll remember, I don't know. We don't know what happens after death.
We don't really know.
But yeah, choose the path that feels the most humane, the most forgiving and loving, the most connective to these other souls that are having a physical experience. Like, those are choices. And healing is also a choice. So I hope we choose that collectively, because I do think that's going to help a shift in what we've been experiencing that has actually been like seeped in pain. So hopefully the journey is something we choose to go on, which is healing and letting go.
Okay. Perfectly said. I can't say anything more. Just perfectly said. I really appreciate your time today. Where can people find you best? I know you have Instagram, and you got your website from there. Anywhere else that they can find you?
Yeah, the title of the book, sunshiningonmorningsnow.com. You can reach out to me. My name, ingridhudahl.com, is my coaching, leadership, speaking website. There's forms in there. Yeah, so feel free to send me a note in the form, or you'll see an email link. So yeah, I'd love to hear from your listeners. This has been such an honor.
Yeah, thank you so much.